speech will now be cut off in certain conditions. If you slip, get stunned, get knocked into crit, or take a 10 plus damage that is blunt related, you will now have a certain speech verb attached to it, and it will cut off your speaking. It's just a bit more immersive, and it will add to those moments where you're in combat or you're typing and somebody surprises you and pulls out a gun and shoots you. It will just look a little bit more natural in those instances. The Chefvend and Condiment station now have restock crates. The Chefvend only costs $680, and the Condiment restock only costs $300. So now these two can get their supplies back, and chefs especially will probably be wanting to request this because it lets you get things like enzymes. I mean, there's also monkey cubes in here, which is useful for even more than just the chef. And I mean, realistically, there's actually a lot of stuff in the Chefvend, and the Condiment station is used for a few recipes, and it's just fun for flavoring things. Small guns can now be put inside boots that have storage, like the combat boots. So for example, a security officer could put their standard issued MK58 in their boots, and that's just one more place that syndicate agents can hide their guns. Practice ammunition is a new tier 1 arsenal research. It basically just lets you print out practice laser rifles and disablers and all the practice ammunitions. For 2,000 points you can research it, and in the security tech fab is where you will craft this stuff. They're not too expensive. The practice laser rifle's a little expensive, but in the right situations, I could see it being used. And all the practice bullets actually only use plastic instead of steel, so they don't really chip into real ammunition cost. The Advanced Treatment Cyborg module has been added to the game. It is a module meant for medical cyborgs. The module gives the Borg access to 2 beakers, a Borg dropper, and a Borg hypo. The dropper is to allow them to withdraw chemicals from a beaker and inject into the hypo, and then the hypo is just like any other hypo that lets you inject it into people. So this is great for treatment. I guess that's why it's called the Advanced Treatment module, but it would also be good for trying to EMAG one, because then you can basically give your Borg a death mix and have them just go hypo somebody to death. So it's good for both medical treatment and as a syndicate option. The electric grill's been added to the game. The board can be acquired through the food service research under tier 1 civilian services and science. The way it works, you simply right click it and you can switch it from low, medium, or high. And you just have to keep cycling through it, and it will basically turn on additional burners. And it's useful for cooking raw meat. So for example, like a raw bear meat, a raw meat itself will turn into a steak, and some raw bacon. You just toss it on there, and on the high setting, it cooks really quickly. So we already got the cooked bear, we got the cooked steak, and we got the cooked bacon. You can also commit a little bit of a probably a bit of a health hazard, and you can basically cook animals alive that are small enough. So for example, this chicken is indeed being cooked alive at the second. It's not very quick either. So if I examine their health, yeah, they start taking heat damage. And yeah, they will you can slowly burn small animals to death. The wide spectrum anomaly locator has been added to the game, and it is really just a really long range scanner. It has 2 modes basically. It either detects an anomaly or it doesn't. So right here, it doesn't detect it. If I step just a tile over, it lets me know that it's within, like, it's about 40 tile range, so I can just show you how far away this anomaly actually is. It more or less just lets you know you're at least in the right part of the station, but that anomaly was easily 40 tiles away, and it doesn't beep any faster when you actually get closer to it, but it could be good for at least getting you into like the hot zone, for example, and then you can swap to the normal anomaly locator to find it. You can now wear wet floor signs, and it's not real armor, but it is pretty funny looking seeing the, I'll zoom in for you, it's pretty funny seeing the wet floor sign just hanging over a janitor. The PR mentions being able to run into something to explode, but it doesn't seem to do that. But I guess what you could do is you could just drop it off from your chest directly onto them rather than keep it in your hand. So yeah, you can do a quick drive-by bombing that way. There is now text on the side to describe how healthy or damaged you actually are. It's to help out with colorblind people and give you a little more direction of how healthy you are. So full health is good, and if I just start slowly hurting myself, it drops to okay. A little bit more damage, it drops to poor. Keep going, it will drop to bad, and once you get really close to critical, it will drop to bad with an exclamation point, and then of course, critical is unchanged. Health analyzers have been updated to only show you the current damage you have, so if somebody is completely unhurt, the damage categories won't be there. But if I were to like grab a light bulb, for example, and If I scan myself, you'll see now that I do have the burn category, which was the heat damage, and that lets doctors focus more so on what is actually wrong with a patient than having to look through all the different numbers, and it makes it just a little bit easier to read. Explosives will now actually destroy holofans, so you can't stop a nuclear blast with a holographic projector. If I just put an explosive grenade in the middle of the holofan, you'll see that it does blow up the holofan and causes damage like you would expect. The last thing I'll cover this week is that the nuclear operative agent, otherwise known as the medic, now has his own sprite for the armor. They now have access to the blood red medic hard suit. It has the same stats as the elite suit, and the sprite makes it a little bit more clear they're a medic. The cross at least indicates that. And if I just do a click turnaround, you can notice that there's also a medical symbol on the back, but that's going to be mostly covered up by the bag. And there's also the white parts on the shoulder to also help indicate further. And if I take off the boots, you can see just how much of the white goes around the ankles. This makes them more in line with the rest of the Nukies. Before, the agent was all black. Now they are red like the rest of their comrades. I want to thank all of our maintainers and contributors for keeping the game up to date, full of content, and fixed. Unlike before, I used to scroll through the changelog, but instead I'm just going to basically write out every single patch. You can either view it in the comments down below or view it in the Steam post. Thank you for watching.